today I thought I would make a video of my 2020 favourites to extract some goodness out of the terrible year that was 2020. I've split this up into 4 sections, and I think we'll just start with books and get those out of the way. So the first book related favourite is audiobooks, and kind of relatedly libraries, because this year I signed up to my local library and they actually do have an overdrive thing, which means that I could borrow audiobooks. I mean, I've actually literally never stepped foot into the library thanks to 2020, but I've borrowed like so many books. I've done a lot of reading that way, and that's one of the ways I've like managed to kind of stay reading this year, because it's been so tough and so hard to read and just so tiring and stressful and painful. I just feel deeply grateful for libraries and also for audiobooks. Yeah, well, whilst it can be frustrating because some books just aren't made into audiobooks, and you know, especially if they're like more indie press or like written by a marginalised author, they can be harder to find, which is really frustrating. But I am just so grateful for all of the audiobooks that are already out there and that are being made. The second one is kind of also related to the first, but this is a like book series / specifically kids book series, sort of like conceptually, generally, because yeah, I've done a lot of listening to kids books, especially I guess in the latter part of the year after my degree finished, and I just really enjoyed it. I was counting up the number of series that I had started in 2020 the other day for a Tumblr Ask or whatever, and it made me realise how many series I had started in 2020, which like I don't normally read that many book series, I don't think, but it was a really long list. And in fact, I think I might make a video about like that, and also, you know, talk about then like my favourite ones and more ones I finished as well and stuff like that, because yeah, there were just so many. But yeah, I just really enjoyed doing that, and like part of the reason I could do that was because the library, you know, I would like listen to the first Murder Most Unladylike series, and then bam, I could just get the second like 2 weeks later. I listened to Sabriel, I listened to L'Oreal, I currently even have Abhorsen downloaded, which got to me before the end of last year, which I was so impressed by. Like I only put in the hold for that like 2 days, and then they were like, here you go. And then as for like best books specifically, I think I would just say that like ones who kind of peak, who are now part of my like favourite books of all time, I think, are Loat by Shola von Reinhold, Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel, Tahanu by Ursula K. Le Guin, which is also part of a series, and We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. This next section is activities. So I've known how to knit for quite a long time. I went to like a knitting club when I was at school, so when I was about like 8 or something, and I even have like the knitting needles that I learned how to knit on. Yeah, but then I kind of only ever really like knitted some scarves, and I didn't really ever kind of keep going with it, which is a shame knowing how like much I've improved in the past year and considering like I could have done that earlier. But anyway, and the same kind of goes for crocheting, although actually I taught myself how to crochet when I was 20. Yeah, but I only kind of ever learned how to do like a granny square, and I think crocheting is still where I need to like improve the most actually. But anyway, the favourite is crocheting and knitting, and specifically this year I knitted my first pair of socks. These are not my first pair of socks, these are for my dad, and then I made lots of other socks this year for Christmas. And then obviously I also like started knitting my Harry Styles cardigan, which I really enjoyed. Just really have so enjoyed making things with my hands. I'm super excited to keep going and to make new different projects. I think this year I'm going to try and make like a jumper, maybe also knit some more hats. Yeah, and then with crochet I like actually made like a really large blanket, which I'm really happy with, and is I think really pretty, and took me hours and hours. And you know, the next year I'd like to get better at crocheting, and I think I'd like to crochet a pair of socks and stuff like that. I also have like a fun thigh-high sock knitting project that hopefully I'll get to do this year as well. I'm gonna have to film this in like sections, so hopefully each one won't look that different from the other. But anyway, the next activity that is a favourite is sewing, and this year I did, I think, particularly well with my sewing, and I made quite a few things, like including masks and stuff like that. But like the things that are on this favourite list are 3 skirts that I made that I just love and like I wear all the time, and you know, I just think they're great and I'm super happy to have made them. So one I'm wearing right now, so I'm gonna like put cutaways or whatever. This is like a longer skirt, it's purple, and I actually have some masks that like match this fabric, and it's kind of ugly, but I love it. It's based on a kind of Victorian walking skirt petticoat thing, so I can wear it underneath this like walking skirt I made. These are all not going to be ironed. Yes, I love that one. And then the more recent one that I made is this one, which is actually low-key based off of what Jester Lavore in Critical Role, which I will talk about a bit more later on, wears in her first, like in her level 1 or 2 or whatever look. And so yeah, it's navy, and then it has these like triangle slits that are dip dyed pink with these flowers on them. Yeah, I love it so much, and I also love how it looks when I wear like a petticoat underneath it, and it flounces out. And then the one I'm wearing actually was a little bit, I think, inspired by Little Women, the 2019 version, and what Amy wears, which I'll try and find a picture of too. Not quite, obviously, but like the vibes maybe are kind of similar. And I actually did also sew like a kind of jacket from the same fabric, which makes me look like a girl boss, which is kind of hilarious. So yeah, then the last activity is tarot, but not the type of tarot that you might expect. This tarot is a French card game, and it uses like a particular deck. So there's the 4 suits, but also in this deck there's a 4th picture card. So there's the roi, dame, so the king, the queen, the valet or the jack as we call them in English, and then there's also a 4th picture card who fits in between the valet and the dame, and he's the cavalier, so the knight. And then there's also another suit which are trumps, and they look like that. And yeah, I'm not going to try to explain this game to you because everybody doesn't understand it when I try to make them play, but this year I did manage to get to play like quite a lot. I like taught my housemates how to play, and I also then forced them to play it with me, which is great because it's like my favourite game ever. I love it so much. And yeah, when I play with queers, we obviously call the dames dykes because, you know, obviously. Next on is the watching section. I have a couple things that are just like on YouTube, which I'll just like talk very briefly about, that are favourites. So there are 2 Riga Biennale favourites, one of which I think I already talked about, and that's the talk by Michael Marder on Hildegard, and it's called To Heal a Shipwrecked World, and it's about plant and theology and ecology and philosophy, and it's really brilliant. And then the other one from Riga Biennale is Sophie Lewis's talk called Mothering Against the World, and I'll leave links in the description box to both of those. I think they're really wonderful talks, and I would really recommend them. Another thing on YouTube is the For Harriet Black feminist discussion about what happens after you abolish prisons and the police, and it's a really productive and brilliant conversation discussion about what that world could look like, centering black feminist perspectives and black women specifically, and I definitely recommend you check that out. That's also down below. Oh, the last thing that I really loved is something that I watched over and over again. It's a talk that was hosted at the Edinburgh Anarchist Feminist Book Fair, and it's about tech mill, or critic and self-critic, and so it's about a specific process of accountability and about revolutionary struggle in terms of kind of your interpersonal relationships specifically. And so yeah, it's this kind of structure to help critique each other in a really loving way. Let's just pretend that this was all filmed in one take, and so the video is all about that, and I just think it's really interesting, and I would love to be part of like a tech mill process, but obviously you can't really do that like outside of the context of like revolutionary struggle, like in the Kurdish freedom movement, which is where it doesn't actually sort of like tech mill doesn't actually originate from there. Anyway, I'm going into what the talk is about. I thought the talk was really interesting, and if you have thoughts about it, I'd love to hear them. The next thing for watching is films, and I guess we'll just kind of start fairly chronologically. I don't think I'm going to talk about these in much depth because like I don't think I have anything particularly interesting to say about films, but I really liked the Little Women 2019 version. I loved it, actually. Don't know why I'm being all like coy about it, but I loved it. I also really loved Born in Flames, which is directed by I think Lizzie Borden, and it's this incredible feminist film from like the 80s. There's, you know, like definitely some like developments ideologically that maybe haven't quite happened yet, but like it's such a great film, and like it was weirdly relatable, which was incredible. And it's about this women's army, and it's like a post sort of like socialist revolution has happened, so there's like a socialist state, but the socialist state doesn't care about women basically, and women as workers and stuff, and so it's sort of about that and about these women trying to fight back against the violence they experience, and it's just really cool and made me kind of vibrate, full of like hope and strength, and I found it really hard to like settle and go to sleep after I watched it because it was so sort of exciting in a way and like amazing. The next film also kind of made me vibrate with enthusiasm in a similar way, and this is Criminal Queers, which is a film all about prison abolition from a really like queer and trans perspective. It includes like Angela Davis like talking, which is really cool, and yeah, just like centers like just these incredible queers, and it's brilliant. I would really recommend it if you can figure out where to watch it. I think I watched it on Vimeo and stuff, so like it might still be there. I would say those 3 were like the main 3 films that I loved the most this year, but then the 2 films that deserve kind of honourable mentions, one of them maybe slightly more like self-indulgently is Emma, which came out this year. It's an adaptation of Emma by Jane Austen, which as a book I did like, and then as an adaptation I definitely have some issues with it, but I also kind of think it's really beautiful and I really like what they did with it, I guess. Slash I just got really weirdly obsessed with it, and I guess like I really like the romance. I don't know. It was a lonely time for me, which is I guess always so whenever there's like compelling representation of love stories and like familiar ones, I kind of like them, and then yeah, it's very beautiful and blah blah blah. But I wouldn't say the class dynamics are very good, and I think they do this weird thing where they like visualize the servants in a way to like demonstrate how stupid Emma is being and like all of the people, because they're just these like posh rich weirdos. But actually I feel like it served to actually just underline the fact that like the servants weren't even being treated as like humans, and they were part of the aesthetic that like the film was trying to go for, if that makes sense. So they like were subsumed so much into the aesthetic, it stopped being kind of like a new way to show the story, because it undermined the point. Wow, who knows if anybody gets what I mean. But anyway, I did still really enjoy that. And then the other one that gets like an honourable mention is Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn film, which like I fucking loved. It has the best like good cop story. I don't want to spoil it, but like it's the only good cop story out there, okay? Like that's the only trajectory of a good cop story, and it has it, and I really love that. And then like it's full of women and all great, and Harley Quinn is getting like justice, and yeah, I really like that. The next favourite is Critical Role, which is a Dungeons and Dragons streaming show with voice actors. There are up to 7 players, and it's DM'd by Matt Mercer, and they play Dungeons and Dragons, and they like live stream it, or they did previously, now they don't thanks to COVID, on Twitch, and also they put it on YouTube and stuff, and then you can watch it, and I just really enjoy it. I think it's funny. I wouldn't say I enjoy all of it but I do really love the characters that they create, and it is fun to watch with voice actors because they really commit in a way that I think like if you just filmed kind of like random people it would be a bit less kind of compelling. You know, some of the characters are queer, and one of my ships just became canon, which I'm very happy about. And yeah, it has my favourite character in it, who's Jester Lavore, who like I kind of identify quite a lot with which maybe like tells you quite a lot about me. I feel like that also makes it seem like I think I'm the main character of the story of the world, which like I don't really think that. But yeah, I really like it. It's fun. I think the second campaign, the one with Jester in it, is much better than the first campaign, which has different characters and started 5 or so years ago. I'm only kind of like 60 episodes into that, and like it's okay, it's just definitely not as good. But yeah, no, I really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to when they start streaming again after this like Christmas holiday break. Now we have just like booktube faves, although actually this isn't a particularly long list. I think I might leave like a longer list in the description box when I've thought more about it. But like the main fave for booktube for me is that Butch Poetics, one of my wives, Amanda, started booktubing this year, and you know, that's wonderful, and I love them a lot, and it's been a really nice way to be able to like still kind of see part of their life. Like we haven't actually met in person for, you know, more than a year. Obviously that's really sad. If I think about it I might cry, but this has been a way to just to be able to like see them and hear them talk, and like that's really nice, and I'm super grateful that they did a channel, and it's so successful and wonderful, and all of their videos are great, and obviously you should go check them out. The other like favourite is like extremely weird and very whatever, but this is also why I love booktube, which is like, this other fave is just a video by one of my favourite booktubers, Julia's Book Time, and it's a review of The Meaning of Mariah Carey, which is Mariah Carey's autobiography. Yeah, it's like called Why The Meaning of Mariah Carey is So Good, or something like that, and it's just about the book and about Mariah Carey, but then it's also about Julia and her experiences with being like a fan of Mariah Carey, and like I just really love it. Like I don't know what to tell you. I guess what it speaks to is like the really personal and beautiful relationship people have with books, and also then people and music and other art. But like, yeah, that's what it is, and it's cool. So there you go. Honourable mention obviously also goes to Storytime, one of my favourite channels as well. Great, okay, I think we're on to the final part of this video. You might be able to tell how many days it's taken me to film this via how much leftover nail varnish I still have. The next section is kind of like miscellaneous stuff, and the first one for that is just like finishing my master's degree, which I'm proud of doing and was really fucking hard. The next thing is just like the post and all of the people who are posties, because yeah, I don't know, like this year I'm just really grateful for people who continue to like deliver and collect post, amazing comrades. The next thing is the concept of mutual aid, which I already kind of knew about and loved, but yeah, obviously like I think most people know that like mutual aid slash like groups calling themselves mutual aid have like massively grown over the past year, which, you know, has some good things and has some bad things about it, I think, but like generally it's kind of cool and, you know, has been really helpful to people. But I personally got supported by like a local mutual aid group, and that was really lovely. And yeah, I just really appreciate everybody who did that. It feels almost embarrassing to talk about because like it feels like, oh, I don't deserve it or anything, but I also feel like it's kind of almost more important to do that then, because mutual aid is mutual for a reason. It's not really about like stratifying need or worthiness in the way that like charity or like philanthropy or whatever the fuck is. Yeah, so like the past year I got shopping delivered to me by various volunteers, and they were all lovely, and like all of the volunteers I already knew as friends and stuff, which also kind of made it nicer as well, because then I actually got to see them briefly, obviously, you know, safe and socially distant. And yeah, I just really appreciated that. And almost kind of following on from that, my last favourite is disabled people. Sparkles. And I wanted to kind of include this because I feel like 2020, and you know, all the years before it, but especially 2020 has been just really hard to be a disabled person in, to be, you know, an immunocompromised disabled person, to be a disabled person who has to work as an essential worker, a disabled person who can't get their boundaries maintained because of people that they live with, even though they're making them unsafe. Yeah, all of these things, and the sort of the discourse, the talk about pandemic and the way that it affects people and affects people's lives and choices and you know, autonomy has been really hard to see in the context of any real love and care for disabled people. And so I just wanted to say, so like all the disabled people watching, you're my favourite and you're all brilliant, and yeah, thank you for trying. It's hard. I think that's all the things that I wanted to cover in this video. I'll leave like links and things to everything I've mentioned, or as much as I can, in the description box. And I hope that was interesting. Tell me what you think about these choices, or if you had any other favourites of the year and what got you through. And hopefully I will see you soon. Bye.